There's a camera in your home that never stops recording. It doesn't have a lens. It doesn't have a hard drive. It has 4 legs, a heartbeat, and it has been watching you every single day since the moment it arrived. Your dog knows things about you that you have never told anyone. It knows which mornings are harder than others before you've spoken a word. It knows when something is wrong before you've admitted it to yourself. It knows your patterns, your rhythms, your moods. Not because it was trained to notice them, but because noticing you is the thing it does most naturally in the world. Most owners find that idea touching. A few find it slightly unsettling. But here's what almost nobody thinks to ask. What exactly is it noticing? And what does it do with that information? Because the answer to those 2 questions changes how you understand every interaction you've ever had with your dog. Every time it came to you without being called. Every time it seemed off before you knew anything was wrong. Every time it read the room before anyone else in it did.
Let's start with the thing most owners underestimate. We tend to think of our dogs as emotionally intuitive, good at picking up on feelings, tuned into energy, sensitive in a general sort of way. That framing is true, but it's also vague in a way that undersells what's actually happening. Your dog isn't picking up on a general vibe. It's running a continuous, detailed scan of your body. In 2016, researchers at the University of Padova in Italy studied 26 dogs and their owners across a series of controlled emotional conditions. They found that dogs didn't just respond to obvious signals like crying or raised voices. They were responding to micro-expressions, the tiny, involuntary shifts in facial muscles that happen in less than a quarter of a second, far too fast for most humans to consciously register. The dogs weren't reading your face the way a person reads a face. They were reading it faster and more completely. Now think about what your face does on a hard Monday morning, before you've had coffee, and before you've said a single word. Your dog already knows. But the face is only the beginning. Here's a question almost nobody asks. Can your dog hear your heartbeat from across the room?
In 2018, a research team at the University of Mexico studied 40 dog owner pairs and measured the distance at which dogs could reliably detect changes in their owner's heart rate without any physical contact. The average distance was 1.2 meters, roughly 4 feet. Your dog can tell from the other side of the coffee table that your heart rate has shifted before you've moved, before you've spoken, before you've consciously registered that something is different. What this means is that your dog is receiving physiological information about your internal state that you yourself may not yet be aware of. You feel anxious 20 minutes after your dog already knew you were anxious. You feel the grief starting to rise an hour after your dog moved quietly to your side. And this is where it gets interesting, because noticing is one thing, but your dog isn't just collecting this information, it's building something with it. Researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, the same institution that established dogs form infant-like attachment bonds with their owners, ran a series of studies between 2017 and 2020, tracking how dogs responded to inconsistent owner behavior over time. What they found was that dogs build what researchers call an internal model of their owner, a working portrait, updated constantly, of how this specific person behaves, what their patterns mean, and what is likely to come next.
Your dog doesn't just notice that you seem tense this morning. It cross-references that against every other tense morning it has observed. It knows whether this kind of tension usually passes by noon or lasts all day. It knows whether it means you'll need company or space, and it adjusts accordingly. That isn't instinct. That's something closer to knowledge. Let's be specific about one thing the research gets very clear on. There is a popular idea that dogs read body language the way humans do, consciously, deliberately, as a skill they apply when they choose to pay attention. The reality is different and more remarkable. For your dog, reading you isn't a skill it switches on. It is the default state. Your dog is always processing, always updating, even when it appears to be asleep on the other side of the room. Especially then. Researchers tracking canine attention found that dogs in a resting state still orient their ears and adjust their muscle tension in response to owner movement and vocal tone. The processing never fully stops. Your dog is the most attentive observer you will ever have, and it has never once looked at its phone. And then there is this.
In 2019, a team at the Medical Detection Dogs charity in the United Kingdom trained 11 dogs to detect the specific odor signature of psychological stress in human sweat and breath samples. Not physical illness, not injury, but the biochemical change that happens in the human body during acute emotional distress. The dogs identified the stress samples correctly 93.8% of the time. What this tells us is that when you are struggling, not visibly, not loudly, just internally, your body is producing a chemical signal that your dog can smell. You cannot hide a hard day from your dog, not completely. It knows before you've decided how you feel about it. If there is one thing worth watching for, it is this. A dog that has built a detailed internal model of you will sometimes show changes in its own behavior before you have consciously registered a change in yours. If your dog becomes unusually clingy, unusually gentle, or unusually still around you, pay attention to yourself, not to the dog. That behavior is often not about the dog at all. It is a reflection of something your dog detected in you that you haven't yet named. So the next time you walk into a room and your dog looks up at you, understand that look is not casual.
It is reading your face, your posture, the sound of your breathing, the chemical signature of your mood, and cross-referencing all of it against weeks and months of accumulated observation. In the time it takes you to notice it looking, it has already learned something about how you are today. It has been doing this since the day it met you. You are the most studied subject in its world, and everything it has ever learned, every pattern, every signal, every quiet morning it watched you from across the room, all of it has gone into one thing: knowing how to be there for you. If this changed how you see your dog's attention, subscribe to Mind of Paw and leave a comment below. Has your dog ever reacted to something you were feeling before you showed it? And if you want to understand what your dog is communicating, the moment your dog sits in your spot for a reason you don't expect is next. And what it's actually saying is far more deliberate than you'd expect.